Hi everyone, I'm Lissa and today I'm doing my very first book haul. So before I get started with this pretty massive book haul, I just want to say that I highly recommend watching Richard Denny's recent video post about I Can't Afford BookTube. And I'm lucky I have a full-time job where I make a pretty decent salary, I don't have any kids, and I have a lot of extra money to spend on books. Don't feel bad if you don't. And I also lived in a very rural area up until recently where the library system was minimal, that's putting it kindly, and I pretty much had to buy everything that I wanted to read, or I wouldn't be able to read it. So those habits have kind of carried over, even though I have an amazing library system now. So my book hauls in the future, if I do any at all, actually will probably be a lot smaller than this one. I think this has 45 books that I'm going to haul. That's a scary number. Scary number. Let's get started. So the very first book I am going to haul is Through the Woods by Emily Carroll, and I think I got this as a recommendation from Book Riot. I highly recommend Book Riot too. They're amazing. It's a graphic novel of horror short stories. I loved it. I love horror. I love graphic novels. I love the art. I love the stories. I would highly recommend this book. Next, I am going to haul my adult nonfiction, historical books, anything that's nonfiction, memoirs. First up, Lost Mountain. This is by Eric Ries, and I highly recommend this book as well. It's about strip mining in the Appalachian region. I live in the Appalachian foothills. I've seen strip mining in action. It's not pretty. I'd recommend this book. Next is also a book that was recommended by Book Riot. It's called The Oregon Trail by Rinker Buck, and I believe he retraces the Oregon Trail. I haven't read this book yet. It looked really interesting, so I picked it up. Next up is The Lost World of the Old Ones, Discoveries in the Ancient Southwest by David Roberts. I actually lived in this area in the Southwest. Just going to adjust my camera, sorry. I actually lived in this area, saw a lot of these sites, so I thought this would be a really interesting book to read, so that's why I picked this one up. It's a pretty new release. I think it was 2015, maybe. But yeah, I lived in the Four Corners area, so I got to see a lot of these sites when I lived there, and they were beautiful and amazing, so definitely recommend this book probably too once I read it. Next up, No Excuses by Derek Coleman Jr. And this book is autographed. Love signed books. I'm really looking forward to reading this one. He is a member of the Seattle Seahawks, and if you can't tell, he's actually wearing a cochlear implant, it looks like. He's deaf. He was born hearing, and I think he lost his hearing at around 3 or 4. And he was told, you know, you're never going to be a pro. You're never going to make it. You're never going to be in football because you're deaf. He didn't listen. Literally, I guess you could say, but also figuratively. He's like, no, I'm going to make it. And he's with the Seattle Seahawks. I love football. I saw the commercial that featured him. It was like an Energizer commercial, I think. And I really liked the commercial. And when I learned that he had a book out, I was like, must buy, especially with it autographed. I mean, I love signed books. I love signed books. Last up is a pretty heavy book, literally and figuratively speaking. It's Mancorn, Cannibalism and Violence in the Prehistoric American Southwest by Christy G. Turner II and Jacqueline A. Turner. Cannibalism in the Southwest. You know, a lot of people don't realize that violence and cannibalism happened a lot in the Southwest. So I'm going to read this book, and the next time someone says that they're all like peace, love, hippies out there, I'm going to school them. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, next is my adult fiction. And this pile is the second largest pile that I have. I don't know how many books is in it. We'll see. First up is The Life We Bury by Alan Eskins. It was on my wish list and the price dropped really dramatically on Amazon. I think I got this for $7, brand new, so I bought it. I can't remember what it's about, but it looked interesting enough to add to my wish list, so when it went down, I bought it. Next up is A Land More Kind Than Home, a novel by Wiley Cash. I haven't read anything by Wiley Cash. I actually got his This Dark Road to Mercy as well in this haul. So I heard that he's a lot like, I heard that he's a lot like Cormac McCarthy and kind of like a Southern Gothic kind of thing, Appalachian kind of fiction, and like I said, I'm from Appalachia, so I love reading about this. So that's why I got both of them. They were both on sale too. Next up, The Bird Box by Josh Malerman, or Malerman, maybe Malerman. Horror. I don't know a lot about it except it has something to do with birds. Birds don't really scare me, but that might change. We'll see. Next up is Euphoria by Lily King. And I can't remember what this book is about either. I think it's about anthropologists in Egypt, not Europe, Egypt, in the 1930s. Sounded interesting. Once again, was on sale on Amazon. I bought it. Happiness Like Water by Chinelo Paranta. I probably butchered that. I'm sorry. I have heard that this is amazing, amazing, amazing. A couple of my friends liked it, so when it was on sale on Amazon, I purchased it, of course. House of Leaves. Oh, this is a big book by Mark Zdinowski, something like that. I heard that it's really super, super scary. Actually, the person I got the recommendation from is Danica Ellis, who I follow on Goodreads, and she really liked it, and our reading taste seemed to be pretty similar, so when she was like, oh, I couldn't put this book down, I was like, okay, need to purchase this book. Next up is Bull Mountain by Brian Panowich. I am butchering names today, guys. Sorry. Also, Appalachian fiction. I am on an Appalachian fiction kick. So it was $14, I think, on Amazon for a brand new hardcover. So I purchased it. Next up is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. Also on sale on Amazon. I got this brand new paperback for $8. And I don't remember who I heard talking about it. It was actually in a BookTube video somewhere. I don't remember whose it was. But they were like, I really like this book, and it's really awesome, and it sounded interesting to me, so I picked it up. Next up, When the Moon is Low by Nadia Hashimi. I think I got that name right at least. It's about child trafficking, I think. I think her son gets kidnapped in Pakistan or Afghanistan or something like that. And I read the first chapter online. I got this recommendation from Book Riot once again, and it sounded amazing. They loved it. I really liked the first chapter, so I bought it. There's just too many books, like seriously. Next is Gone for Soldiers by Jeff Shara. I think I'm saying his name right. I don't know. It was on sale at my local independent bookstore for $8.99. It's a book I've always wanted to read. I've read a couple of the Shara books. There's another book in here somewhere by Michael Shara, Jeff Shara's father, Killer Angels, that I also hauled in this haul. So it's about the Mexican War, which there's not a lot of fiction about the Mexican War. Most people don't even know much about it. I love historical fiction. I love history. Picked it up. Next is 40 Acres by Dwayne Alexander Smith, also on sale at my local independent bookstore. It's a book loft in German Village, in case you're wondering. Amazing store. And this is actually kind of like a reverse of slavery. It's like a resort or something where rich black men, I think, or might be rich, African American people in general, I don't know, go to this resort, and like there's white people there as slaves or something. I don't know exactly. It sounded kind of strange and interesting. The black men are called master and whites are considered property. Sounded interesting. It was $7. I picked it up. Next is Safekeeping by Jessamine Hope. And this is actually set in the summer on a kibbutz. If you don't know what that is, it's kind of like a communal kind of property, kind of almost like a city in Israel in the 60s, 50s, 70s, post-Shoah. Jewish fiction, love it. So, gotta get it. Here's the book I was talking about, The Killer Angels by Michael Shara. I read this way back when, oh gosh, I was like 16 or 17, so like 18 years ago when I was in high school. Never owned the copy, and plan on rereading it. It's about the Battle of Gettysburg. Been there a couple of times to Gettysburg. It's really well done. So, next is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. Hope I said that right. Anyway, it's about World War II fiction. I thought I was going to like it. The prose is wonderful and beautiful and dreamlike. I've already read this book, if you can't tell. But I wasn't in love with it. I like it enough to keep it because it was beautifully written and there's a lot of different things, and you can't see them, but I actually have little tabs in here of the things that I really loved that I would love to come back to and reread passages and sentences. But I wasn't in love with the book. I think I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads. Finally, Harper Lee, Ghost Set of Watchmen. Really wish I hadn't read this book. That's all I really got to say. It's probably going to end up in my half-price books bin at some point. Wish I hadn't read it. Next up is my final section and the biggest section, and that's the young adult section. First up, Simon and the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. Got this after the Supreme Court decision. Wanted to read it for a while. Splurged and said, why not? Scars by Cheryl Rainfield. Gosh, I'm butchering names tonight. Sorry. It's about a girl who cuts and was abused, but she can't remember her abuser's name. And she just deals with the emotions by cutting. And actually, this is I'm pointing wrong, whatever. The scarred arm, these are actually both the author's arms. That's her arm. So, and she's also LGBTQ, so I definitely wanted to pick this book up. It looked interesting, so I picked it up. Next up is Hit by Delilah S. Dawson. It's about a hit girl. In the future, the American country has been taken over by a bank, I think, and if you owe them money, you have to go and kill 5 people or they'll kill you. So, I don't know, sounded different, picked it up. Next up, None of the Above by I.W. Gregorio. I think I said that one right at least. It's about a person who finds out that they are intersex, and it gets out in their school, I believe, and then they kind of have to deal with everything. And I don't think they had any idea until they were a teenager. So that sounds pretty interesting. And when's the last time you read a book about someone who's intersex? I can't think of any that I've read personally. If you have recommendations, let me know. Next up, An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. Great book, loved it. It's fantasy. It has pretty much everything I wanted in it. I think I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. It's more like a 4.5, but I'm really stingy with my 5 stars. So 4 stars it was. 4 stars, an exceptional book, and this is an exceptional book. I really liked it. Really looking forward to reading the sequel, which I believe is in the works. Really looking forward to reading more from this author in the future. Next up is More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera. I can't remember 100% what this is about. I think it's about an African-American boy growing up in the projects who's also gay. It sounds like a lot of stuff, a lot of heavy stuff to deal with. Sounds like my kind of book, so I picked it up. Next up is The Wrath from the Dawn by Renee Adia. Sorry if I butchered that. I've heard a lot of good things about it once again, and so I picked it up. This was not on sale. It was like $12. Next is Made You Up, and this is about a girl, I believe, who has schizophrenia or some sort of other mental illness, and she's trying to adjust to life with this and meet some guy, and I think she's not 100% sure if she's made him up or not. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that, please. But it sounded interesting anyway. Next is Rook by Sharon Cameron. I'm not sure what this is about. This was actually a gift from a friend. They thought I'd like it, so hopefully I do. Next up, I'm going to save that book for later. Alive by Scott Sigler. I bought this book. I'm probably the only person on BookTube who did, because it seemed like everyone got a free copy from the publisher, which makes me a little leery about reading this book. I bought this book before. It was heavily publicized. I'm not going to get into anything about that, but usually when a book is heavily publicized, I get a little leery about the book. So I'm not exactly 100% excited to be reading this right now. I could write a whole blog post or something about my feelings about that. Nothing against the book. I haven't read it. I don't know anything about it. Like I said, I just get a little leery when everything on BookTube and everyone, it seems, has a copy of this from the publisher, because usually something that's super hyped, I find, isn't really worth the hype. That's personal experience. Next is Every Day by David Levithan. Heard great things about this book, haven't read it yet. I'm going to read it. Saving this. Next is Marie Lu, The Young Elites. I actually got this book because one of the subscriptions I really like, Richard Denny. Sounds like I'm stalking, I'm sorry, I'm really not. He really likes this book, and I've heard a lot of good things about this book, so I bought the book. Carrie Ryan, Daughter of Deep Silence. I read the first chapter, picked it up at my local independent bookstore, and hopefully I love it. I'm hoping I love it. Just checking out the book for a second. Okay, just please. Next is The Witch Hunter by Virginia Boker. Gift. Hopefully I like it. Sugar by Deidre Riordan Hall. I've heard a lot of things about this. This is about a plus-size girl, I believe, who has a rough life. I don't know 100% what this book's about. It was $5. Bought it. Crimson Bound by Rosamund Hodge. I have read this book, really enjoyed this book. It's about the Forestborn, and it's like a mythical retelling, sort of Little Red Riding Hood and the Girl with No Hands. It's a really good book if you like Cruel Beauty. It's not set in the same world, but it has a very similar tone because it's the same author. I really like it. I've heard mixed reviews about it, but I liked this book. I really did. Shadow Shaper by Daniel Jose Older. I've heard a lot about this. I got it for the cover, I'm not gonna lie. I love it. Beautiful natural hair. Obviously an African American, some type of, or Latina artist. Okay. I'm not sure if it's set in the United States or not. I don't know, but it looks amazing, and it's kind of like type of paranormal fantasy kind of thing too, which is kind of my genre that I like. Next 3 books, actually I'm going to save this for last. Next up is Victoria Aveyard, Red Queen. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about this. I didn't buy this book. I got it from a friend, so I'm hoping I like it. I don't know if I will. No One Needs to Know by Amanda Grace. I read this book, liked this book. We'll be doing a video review about this book in the future, so stay tuned. Next 3 books there, the last 3 books that I'm hauling are actually from the Book Riot YA Quarterly box. I don't know if you've heard of that. They send a box every 3 months, and it has a surprise, bookish goodies, and books in it. And these are the 3 books I got. Chasing Shadows by Craig Phillips, and it's about friendship, and I think someone is killed, or yeah. One of the friends is killed, one's left in the coma, and one is a sole witness to the crime. Sounds interesting. Next up is A Sense of the Infinite by Hilary T. Smith. I think this is about a friendship breakup. I think they're not friends anymore, and what happens after this. Also cool stuff that came with it. I got this signed book plate and some postcards about the book. So I love signed books, like I said. And the last one is Everything Leads to You by, Nina LaCour. I was like, where's the author's name at? It's down here. I've wanted this book for a long time. It's actually been on my wish list for a very long time. So super excited to have it. Super excited to read it. And that's 45 books hauled. That's a lot of books. And it's going to take me probably 4 or 5 months to get through all these. And that's not counting my TBR once I get my place again and have my bookshelves put up. I won't even say how many books those are. I'd be embarrassed. So that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed my first book haul. And I'm going to get to reading to some of these in a minute. So have fun.